Hello Internet, welcome back to Slate Studio, and in the last video I got a comment asking about emotion in songwriting. So today we're talking about genres and reharmonization. The first thing I definitely consider when writing music is a chord progression, and after that I look for a genre that would suit it well. It can be used in a lot of creative and different ways. I use it to change the emotion and the mood of the song. Let me share a project that I started working on a year ago called Embers. Way back in December of last year, I entered a remix competition on this website. I was really excited about this track and I really wanted to make it good, so I asked my friend Julia to help me write some lyrics and then also sing it. We ended up actually going to a studio and renting it out for a few hours, and then we got all of the recording done, and then we mixed and mastered it, and then we sent it off, and it actually ended up winning. And the prize for winning was a collaboration and a release on No Copyright Sounds. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is my huge break. This is what I worked so hard to do. Unfortunately, that never happened. I contacted the original artist and we started to make some progress on the collaboration, but it never really got off the ground. We never really worked on it after a couple weeks, and I never got the release. So that was a bummer. Until recently, I decided I was gonna remake it on my own. So this takes me back to how to decide what mood I want the track to have. Since it was originally a collaboration and now it's an original, I can actually choose what I want it to be. And if you're wondering what it sounds like, here it is.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars, if their light traveled this far, why can't ours? Why can't we start again?
So I want to use Embers to look at reharmonization and genre manipulation to change the mood and the emotion of a track. Let's just hop right into Ableton. Okay, so the original track was a progressive house track, so I just put that right over here, and I simplified it into a pad and a bass line and the lead vocals. So here's what that sounds like as a reduction.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars, if their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
And now let's listen to a different variation. In this one, the chords change a little bit more slowly, and we stay in G sharp minor a lot longer than the first one. And at the end of the progression, we have a diminished 7th chord, which really accentuates the minor.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars, if their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
That combination of things makes this progression a lot sadder, and it lends itself actually to minor heavy genres like trap and hip hop. If we add just a few elements, I can show you exactly what I mean.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars, if their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
This one to me feels like hurt. This one feels like a very hurt person, whereas in the original track it wasn't quite as depressing. So it's really interesting that we can adapt not only the pace of the chords, but also change the genre so that it fits the emotion that we're looking for. In this one, I'd call it hurt. We can take this in a different direction by adding some different chords and making the progression overall twice as long. In this one, I implemented a descending bass line, which is pretty popular actually in some older pop and rock music. You might think of Stairway to Heaven when you listen to this.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars, if their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
So in this one, the chord pace is about the same as the first one. We just have a longer progression. I would say that it makes it into a more storytelling kind of song. It's a little bit old school, and it's someone remembering their past, and maybe they're telling the story in a more thoughtful way, rather than hurt. You know? This isn't coming from a place of hurt, this is coming from a place of reflection. So you can feel that difference in mood. If we add a few more elements, we can change the genre and really commit to this old school pop rock.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars, if their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
If you're looking for something that's not like this at all, and you're looking for something that's smooth and jazzy and cool, then you can actually accomplish that really easily by putting in some seventh chords. In this next progression, only one chord is not a seventh chord, and it's a major chord.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars. If their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
To me, this progression feels kind of jazzy and smooth, and it feels kind of like the hip-hop one, except this one doesn't have that anger that is associated with hurt. This one feels depressed, but also hopeful. We can really push that further if we push it into a genre like jazz, or if you're looking for something modern, we can go into future bass. And being an electronic producer, I tend towards future bass, so let's do that.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars. If their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
To me, that feels like a great future bass opening, and there's definitely more you could add. But if you want that sense of smoothness and that background in jazz, this is the way you can go. So you can have that kind of depressed, but also hopeful kind of feeling. And in this final chord progression, we're going to lead all the way to the hopeful side. Even though this is in a minor key, we're going to be spending most of our time actually in major chords, which is going to make it sound more upbeat.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars. If their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
So in this one, we have very simple chords, and they start up and they go down and then they go back up again. This is very similar to what the Chainsmokers do, actually. And if it works for the Chainsmokers, it can work for you. If you're like me, the first thing I thought of when I heard this was deadmau5. And to really feel that upbeatness and club atmosphere, we're going to push it into the EDM field.
There is a fire in the rain. Drops fall and silence the flame. Under a canopy of burned out stars. If their light traveled this far, why can't ours?
You can really feel the vibe with that one. It's a lot like the Chainsmokers, it's a lot like deadmau5. So that's how you can use something, even if it's in a minor key, to sound more upbeat. Definitely the rhythm and the drums and the other instruments helped with that feeling, but the chord progression itself is great for that kind of feeling. This concept of reharmonization and genre manipulation is really cool, and it's something that I do all the time with my remixes. Trying to figure out what chord progression lends itself best to those lyrics, and then figuring out what genre could do well with that chord progression. I think all of that is just so interesting, and that's exactly what I did with my Christmas EP, actually. I picked chord progressions that fit with those Christmas songs, and then I just put them into genres that I thought they did well in. When it's clear what your song is trying to say, it makes it so much more enjoyable to listen to. But Mr. Slate, how do I write chord progressions to a melody? Okay, well, it won't be available at the time of this upload, but I will eventually do a very in-depth video on that. For the time being, just try to stay in the key, and if you have something that sounds good already, then you can go ahead and give this reharmonization strategy a try. And if you don't have any vocals that you can work with, I recommend this website. It's called SKIO Music, and you can actually enter remix competitions all the time. That's how I got started, and that's why I love to do remixes so much. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Slate Studio. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.